it's Liz from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you for joining me again today. Today's project is this little box. Now this is made with items from my February craft box. So it's using one of the tiny treat boxes. And if you remember, you will get 8 of these in your craft box. And I've then used some cardstock and some of the designer series paper and one of the optional stamps to build this little box together. Now this one is empty. The only reason this is empty is because it's to take Easter eggs, those little mini Easter eggs, and I only have enough for one box. So I thought that I would make the one box that I'm going to make with you today, that box. So let's get started. The first thing we need is one of the treat boxes. Thought I had one open. Now, I did mention in the video about the craft box that they come looking a little tatty because they've got this funny, it looks like it's damaged, but actually this is for precisely the opposite reason. It's just a covering so that when you peel it off, it is beautifully shiny and smooth and amazing. So it's acetate, so it's like our window sheets, but it has a bit of a will of its own. Because Stampin' Up have provided the scoring, it makes it a lot easier. So all you do is make sure that you fold everything towards the box along those score lines, and then to put the base together, you pop in this. Can you see that this has got a cutaway piece? Can I see in the camera if I tread on my tippy toes? There's this cutaway piece. So, and it happens to be on the same edge as the top of the box has got the cutaway for your finger. So that goes in first. Then you put in the 2 side bits and they clip into the straight edge. And then you put the final piece in, and that all just tucks in underneath and gets your box ready. Now, just so that there's a sort of flat surface at the bottom, because it does have a tendency to ping up a bit, I have cut from my A4 Delightful Daffodil Delight. I'm sorry, I've not been well this week and my brain really is not quite with it still. So from my Daffodil Delight, I have cut a piece of cardstock, the full length of the A4. So this was A4 and I cut this off, and then this is 2 inches wide, and then from this I've just cut a square that's 2 inches wide and not quite 2 inches across, for no good reason other than because it's going inside the box. Sometimes it fits better if it's not exactly 2 inches square. So that's why I did it. Now I'm going to fill it with my mini Easter eggs, which, yeah, I don't do chocolate. You know me. If you know me, you know I don't do chocolate. So these actually were hanging around from last year. So are probably not Easter eggs that anyone's going to want to eat. So there we go. These are readily available. I happen to get them from a local discount supermarket, but they come from pretty much anywhere. You can get these, and you can get more expensive and less expensive ones. So that's our box filled. Then with the piece of Daffodil Delight, she says, trying to plug her brain in again, that's left over from our 2-inch sheet, I'm going to just fold up a piece that is not 2 inches. So that's probably about 1 inch. And just make sure that it's square, and that will be the bottom of my box. And then I'm just going to fold it round so that it fits. Now, you'd like to think that as this is a 2-inch cube, it would be possible to just score at the 2-inch mark. Not so much, because whilst you're wrapping it round, it becomes slightly bigger than 2 inches, because you're adding the width of the cardstock, or the depth of the cardstock. So I would highly recommend wrapping it rather than measuring it, and then just go in with your bone folder and reinforce those folds so that they are nice and clean. So there we go. And then just have the courage of your convictions to cut off this, because it's, before I do it, let me show you why I'm saying that. So that's the bottom. It's too long. It's just that bit too long. So I'm just going to cut about 1/2 inch, so centimetre and a half off. But that's your only scrap from that 2-inch sheet or strip. You can tell my brain's really not with it still, can't you? Even more than usual. Right, let's pop that back in. Pop some fast fuse along one edge. Now I want this to be removable, so it's a belly band rather than actually being attached. You can attach it to the box if you want, but I think it's just fine being a belly band. Now obviously if you're clever and you can get the right colour eggs, you can actually have the box filled with a colour egg that matches what you're decorating it with. This is some of the designer series paper, and we've got the daisies on one side and this green old olive tone on tone pattern on the other side. I'm going to use excuse me, I'm going to use the daisies as the outside, and I've cut this just a strip from the 6x12 sheet. Let me grab what's left. Here we go. So this was my 6x12 sheet. I just cut off the bottom a strip that is 1 15/16 wide, so slightly under 2 inches, just so that you've got a nice little edge. Now on the first one I cut it at 1 3/4 inches, and for me this is too big an edge, so I've changed it for this one. Now do remember, as ever, all the measurements will be on the associated blog post, which is linked immediately below here. Now if you are one of those people that likes to match up your designer series paper so it goes all the way around, obviously do that. Under normal circumstances I might, but there are moments when life actually is just too short, so I'm not. Try not to stick it to your work surface. And you can put a piece on the bottom, which I did on the original, but actually if you don't, it means that you save on your design series paper. So if you wanted to put a piece on the bottom as well, you'd have to cut another strip. So it's going to be sitting with the bottom on the table, so why bother, says I. So that is the box basically, I say box, the wrap basically made. I'm then going to take some of the double stitched ribbon in the delightful Daffodil Delight. I'm sorry, my brain will come back, honest it will, it's just not at the moment. And all I'm going to do is tie this in a knot. You could go round and do a full wrap so that it's on 4 sides, but because I'm only doing a belly band, I'm not going to do 4 sides for the ribbon because that just feels a bit wrong somehow. So that's not a very good knot. That is so not a good knot, but never mind, it's good enough. And then just grab your snips, which for some reason seem to be the other side of the room, and oops, snip into a nice point, and that is that bit done. Now I like tags, so I like to put tags on my presents, so I've done a little tag here. Using one of the stamp sets that is an optional extra, which is the Hello Easter. I think it's stunning. I will be doing a couple more projects using this. So yeah. Right. I am using, for this, I'm using the bunny and the Happy Easter and a scrap of Whisper White, she says, having not actually put one out. Oh yes, I did. Yeah, no, that's not a scrap. Let's grab a scrap. There we go. One scrap of Whisper White. I'm going to use the Everyday Label Punch, which has carried over from the Autumn Winter catalogue. So do remember that there are some things that have carried over from the Autumn Winter catalogue. I'm using Crumb Cake for the little bunny, because I think he's a little wild rabbit and therefore he's kind of crumb cake coloured. Make sure he's properly inked up. And I'm going to put him towards the top of my piece of... Can you actually see that? Yes, you can. So that's that. Don't need the crumb cake anymore. Right, Happy Easter I've done in two-tone. And I'm going to do in two-tone again. I'm going to start with Daffodil Delight and just ink up the Happy. So I'm just going to take the Happy and ink that up. And because these are photopolymer, you can look through to see where you're stamping. As I have said before, this is a whole lot easier when you guys are not in my way. But we'll work it out. I don't mind you being in my way, I should hasten to add. It just adds a little extra element. Now you can see that I haven't actually cleaned my stamp terribly well here. I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be off the edge of my punched piece, so I don't mind. So I'm just going to clean that stamp up because it will matter potentially on the other stamp, because I'm coming over this way. So having done Happy, let's do Easter, and again I'm just taking my stamp and just inking up Easter. Now you could mask off, so you could put a piece of post-it note or a bit of washi tape over the bit you don't want to ink up, but it's just a straight piece, so I'm not too fussed. There we go. Right, okay, I'll clean that in a moment. You don't need to be here while I do that. So, label punch, open it up, and from the back, always a whole lot easier to do these things from the back, just line it up in the punch. Now do bear in mind that the R of Easter is lower than the E of Easter. So to keep your words straight, you do need to keep that in mind. And that is that. Then, I don't know why I put the punch away. I just need to take another scrap of Daffodil Delight and punch another one of the labels. And using my snips, just cut that in half up the middle. And then with some fast fuse, just run that across the back and then just have it so it's peeking out. And then same again. And then you can just take your snips and just trim off the little corners that are sticking out, if indeed they are sticking out. Doesn't always end up with them sticking out. And there you've got a nice little tag-ish sort of thing. Right, I need a dimensional, which I've just covered up with the scrap of paper. So a dimensional on the top, and then on the bottom, one of our clear faceted gems, and it's the smallest size. Just, oops, grab one of those, preferably with the glue attached, and pop that down, and then just tuck that there. So there you go, a nice little prezi, how to wrap up some I mean, they don't have to be eggs. They could just be, I don't know, chocolates or bath salts, or in a bag probably, or whatever. But there you are, 2 little projects using our clear treat boxes and the February craft kit. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you need details of the craft kit, that is on my blog, and there's a link in my blog post which is immediately below to the details of the craft kit. On my blog I have got a page specifically with details of the craft kits, so you can go straight to my blog and just find that tab, but there'll be a link in the blog post that goes with this video anyway. If you need any of these items but don't want the box, please do jump over to my online store and pop those in your basket, and if you use the hostess code you get to share in some of the goodies that we get as part of the hostess rewards, which is always good fun. And do remember that this month, well, for the whole of Celebration, extra stamping rewards if you put an order in that's more than £200, so, or use a joint order that's more than £200, so that's always good news. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye!